Old Harold Thompson, looking like he'd wandered off a park bench, stepped into the gleaming palace that was Manhattan Motors. At 72, he was swimming in cash, a self-made man who preferred faded jeans to fancy suits. He just wanted to treat himself, a lifelong dream, a top-of-the-line sports car. Manhattan Motors was all glass and chrome, a temple to wealth. Harold, in his worn shirt and sensible shoes, felt eyes on him instantly. Sales guys in razor-sharp suits whispered, sizing him up like he was lost. Before he could even get close to the cars, a slick young salesman, Brad, materialized, all fake smiles and icy eyes. "Afternoon, sir," Brad drawled, eyebrow arched. "You sure you're in the right place? This isn't exactly bargain basement." Harold, calm as ever, pointed towards a fire-red sports car. "Interested in that one? Specs?" Brad snorted, glancing at his colleagues who were now openly enjoying the show. "That car? Might be a tad ambitious for your budget, Pops. Maybe something more practical." Harold didn't flinch. "Just the details, please." Just then, another salesman, Mark, strutted over, grinning. "Brad, maybe he's looking for our economy line." "Oh, wait, we don't have one." They both barked out laughs. Brad leaned in, voice dripping with condescension. "Look, pal, these cars are for people who can afford them. Maybe try a used lot or a police auction." Humiliation stung, but Harold kept his cool. "I want to know about that car," he repeated, pointing again. Brad sighed dramatically, like Harold was personally ruining his day. "Fine. That car costs more than you've probably seen in your life. Let's not waste everyone's time, okay? Just move along." Harold's face didn't change, but his blue eyes sharpened. "Thank you for your time," he said quietly, turning towards the door. As Harold walked away, Mark couldn't resist one last jab. "Need a ride to the junkyard, Gramps?" The showroom erupted in laughter. Harold paused at the door, turned back, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Maybe I'll be back," he said, and walked out, the laughter echoing behind him. Outside, the New York air felt cold against his skin, despite the sun. The laughter still rang in his ears. Harold knew people judged books by their covers, but this was raw, brutal. It stung, but something else sparked too, an idea. He reached his old car, a reliable if battered sedan, and made a quick call. "Doyle," he said, voice low and firm. "Get the team ready, Manhattan Motors hour. Time for a lesson in respect." Doyle, his lawyer and right-hand man, knew that tone. "Understood, Mr. Thompson." Back at Manhattan Motors, Brad and Mark were still basking in their superiority. "Did you see his face?" Mark cackled. "Thinking he could buy a car here, right?" Brad snickered. "I almost offered him a senior citizen discount." They high-fived, the other sales staff joining in the laughter. A sharp-dressed customer walked in, and instantly the smiles switched on, the Herald incident forgotten. Respect, it seemed, was strictly for those who looked the part. An hour crawled by. The showroom hummed with the usual arrogance. No one suspected their world was about to tilt. Then, the roar of engines cut through the air. Everyone turned towards the entrance. Harold Thompson was back. But this time, it was different. No battered sedan. A sleek black limo pulled up, followed by a convoy of luxury cars. Harold stepped out, now in a flawlessly tailored suit, a magnate reborn. Behind him, Doyle and a team of sharp-suited lawyers and assistants. Silence slammed into the showroom. The smug smiles froze. All eyes locked on Harold, confusion and shock rippling through the room. Brad, king of contempt just an hour ago, swallowed hard, his face paling as Harold walked towards them, radiating an aura of quiet power. "Well," Harold said, a calm smile playing on his lips, but a steely glint in his eyes. "Looks like I am in the right place after all." Brad stammered, scrambling for composure. "Mr. Thompson, right? We didn't expect you back so soon. Just joking before. Didn't mean anything by it." Harold's gaze held Brad's, unwavering. "Joking? Funny how jokes reveal the truth, isn't it?" His words echoed, silencing the showroom. The other salesmen who joined in the laughter stood frozen, shame creeping into their faces. Mark tried to fade into the background, but Harold's eyes found him, a silent judgment. "I came to buy a car," Harold continued, turning towards the red sports car Brad had dismissed. "And after our little chat, I'm thinking of buying them all." The showroom went dead silent. Jaws dropped. Brad's face was a mask of disbelief. Harold turned to Doyle. "Doyle, start the paperwork for everything." "With pleasure, Mr. Thompson," Doyle replied, nodding to his team, who instantly moved to action, pulling out tablets and whispering instructions. Brad, desperation clawing at him, stumbled towards Harold. Mr. Thompson, we honestly had no idea. If we'd known. Harold turned slowly, cutting him off. If you'd known what? If you'd known I was rich? Is that when respect kicks in? Respect isn't a reward for wealth, son. It's a basic human courtesy due to everyone, regardless of clothes or cars. The air crackled with tension. The rules had changed. Manhattan Motors was learning a brutal lesson. The man they'd scorned was about to rewrite their world. As Doyle's team worked, the showroom was a tableau of stunned silence. Employees stood like statues, watching the impossible unfold. The man they'd mocked was about to make a deal that could reshape their dealership's future. Harold watched Brad and Mark, their faces pale, their arrogance evaporated. He saw fear, regret, and a flicker of something else. Maybe understanding. But before acting, he needed a moment. Harold stepped outside, the city noise a stark contrast to the showroom's hushed tension. He walked to a nearby park, found a bench, and sat, watching the hurried New Yorkers rush by. This park, he'd been here in tougher times when the city felt like it was crushing him. He drifted back, factories, late nights, scraping for every dollar. Days he'd wondered if it was all pointless, but he'd kept going. Resilience, that was his secret weapon. He remembered slammed doors, dismissive faces, people who'd sneered at his humble beginnings, discrimination, a constant shadow. But it hadn't stopped him. It had fueled him. These memories surged, reigniting a purpose. He wouldn't just buy cars, he'd teach a lesson. Then Margaret, his late wife. Always his rock, always seeing past the surface. She'd never cared about clothes or cash, just kindness, character. A gentle smile touched his lips. She'd be proud. He stood, renewed resolve hardening his gaze. Back to the dealership, time to show them that true worth wasn't measured in dollars, but in dignity and respect. He walked back into Manhattan Motors, every head turning, the air thick with anticipation. Brad and Mark's eyes locked on him, fear replacing arrogance. Harold stopped in the center of the showroom, his voice ringing out, clear and strong. I've spent a lifetime being judged by how I look. People thinking they knew me just by my clothes, my car, but I learned this. True value isn't skin deep. It's about how you treat others. Silence. Every employee hung on his words. Brad stood with bowed head, a defeated man. His prejudice laid bare. Today, you judged me, like so many before. But let me tell you something. It's not just me who deserves respect. Every single person who walks through these doors, rich or poor, deserves the same courtesy, the same consideration. His words resonated, forcing reflection. He turned to Doyle. Let's finalize this. Purchase everything, document every detail, and everyone here needs to understand this is about values, human values. Doyle nodded, a subtle smile playing on his lips. The lawyers continued, the paperwork rustling in the charged silence. Harold knew he was doing the right thing, not just for himself, but for everyone watching. This lesson would stick. Inside Manhattan Motors, the air had shifted. Arrogance and superiority replaced by heavy silence, uncertainty, regret. All eyes fixed on Harold Thompson, the underestimated man now commanding their future. As paperwork progressed, Brad and Mark were a mess. Brad, once so sure of himself, was visibly shaking. He glanced at Harold, desperate to salvage something. Mr. Thompson, Brad began, forcing a shaky smile. Apologies. Misunderstanding. No idea who you were. Of course, we'd have treated you differently. Harold's eyebrow lifted, his gaze sharp. So respect is conditional only for the wealthy. His voice was serene, but the words cut deep. Brad stammered, lost. No, not policy, customer service. Adjustments needed. He floundered, digging himself deeper. Mark jumped in, panic in his voice. Mr. Thompson, truly sorry. Didn't expect someone like you walk in like that, used to certain clientele. Harold smiled, a slight shake of his head. Certain clientele, those who dress the part, look rich enough to deserve your attention? Is that how you measure worth? His words echoed, undeniable. Every employee confronted their own biases. Discomfort hung heavy in the air, the truth exposed. Doyle stepped forward, contract in hand. Mr. Thompson, documents ready. Your signature finalizes purchase of all cars and Manhattan Motors itself. Jaws dropped again. The entire dealership? Unthinkable. Brad, desperate, made one last plea. Mr. Thompson, we messed up. Momentary lapse. Chance to make it right. Promise never judge anyone again. Harold looked deep into Brad's eyes. The showroom held its breath. He took a slow breath, weighing his words. Second chances, easy in business. But character, harder. But everyone deserves redemption. Brad and Mark visibly relaxed, relief flooding their faces. But Harold wasn't finished. Not just buying it, transforming it. Manhattan Motors will be a place of respect, dignity, starting with you. He turned to Doyle. Meeting. Entire team. Intensive customer service training. Empathy, respect, equality. Hope flickered through the room. Brad, Mark, Harold continued, you lead the training. First to learn, apply these values. Set the example. Silence. Then murmurs of approval. Some grateful, others moved. Mark, humbled, finally spoke. Appreciate it, Mr. Thompson. Don't deserve it. But promise, we'll change. Harold nodded, satisfied. Not for reward, because it's right. Everyone deserves respect. He looked around the showroom, once a symbol of arrogance, now on the cusp of change. The change was just beginning. The showroom atmosphere, post-Harold's speech, was a mix of surprise, relief, and deep introspection. He knew there was one more layer to peel back, one more lesson to etch in their minds. He raised a folder Doyle handed him, his expression resolute. You don't know the whole story, he announced, his voice carrying across the silent space. Before judging someone by their clothes, know their journey. He opened the folder, began to share his life. Small town, humble family, worked from young age, every penny hard-earned. Growing up, no one saw potential, just a poor kid, no resources. He paused, watching the employees' faces, curious, embarrassed. His words were landing. Brad, once so arrogant, was lost in thought, maybe replaying his own judgments. Financial situation wouldn't define me. Fought for every chance. Prejudice, dismissals, constant. Never gave up. Every closed door, worked twice as hard, built my own path. The employees were rapt, drawn into his story. Robert, the epitome of disdain earlier, seemed lost in his own thoughts, perhaps replaying his own snap judgments. Years of struggle, Harold continued, built my company, largest investment conglomerates, not built on luxury, but honest work, respect for people. He looked directly at Brad and Mark, compassion and firmness in his eyes. I was like you once. Know what it's like to be judged. But difference between who we are, who we become, is learning, changing. Harold turned to Doyle. Make sure everyone understands. More than just buying dealership, transforming it. Benefit community, not just luxury cars, but opportunity. Silence hung heavy, anticipation building. Training program for young people from humble backgrounds, like I was. Few chances. Automotive market, customer service, most importantly, how to treat everyone with dignity. Robert and Mark were speechless, shame and regret etched on their faces. The man they'd mocked was more than a customer. He was a testament to resilience and generosity. One condition, Harold added, a slight smile. Robert, Mark, mentors for this program. Teach skills, but also today's lesson. True worth is character, respect. Robert, choked with emotion, finally spoke. Mr. Thompson, speechless, ashamed. Will change, better example. Mark, equally moved, added, Me too, Mr. Thompson. Never imagined this. Apologies. Chance to do it right. Harold nodded, approval in his eyes. Not about mistakes, but what you do next. Grow as humans. He closed the folder, surveying the showroom, feeling his mission just beginning. This moment would change lives. As Harold signed the final documents, officially owning Manhattan Motors, he looked around contemplatively. The employees were still processing the seismic shift. The man they'd scorned now owned not just the cars, but the entire dealership. Harold paused, letting the weight of his actions sink in. Then, he stepped forward, announcing something unexpected. Transforming dealership, symbol of equality. Want to share something more. Change future for all of you. All eyes fixed on him, curiosity and apprehension mixed. Doyle tells me, Harold continued, voice compassionate but firm, many of you worked here years, no real growth, passed over, treated as disposable unless wealthy or high status. His words hit hard. Brad and Mark shifted uncomfortably. Harold wasn't just addressing their behavior, he was exposing systemic injustice. I was like you, Harold said, addressing the younger salespeople, overlooked, ignored, judged, but I never let it define me. He inhaled deeply, knowing this was the moment. New owner of Manhattan Motors, not just changing store, changing lives of those overlooked. opportunity to grow, learn, advance. If you dedicate yourselves, treat others with genuine respect. Shock morphed into hope, emotion. For many, unheard, unseen, in this place of appearances and profit, it was unbelievable. They felt seen, heard for the first time. But Harold wasn't done. He motioned to Doyle, who handed envelopes to each employee. Envelopes, Harold explained. Profit-sharing plan. When we work together, everyone shares success. Each of you, vital to growth, change. Robert opened his envelope, hands trembling, disbelief on his face. Mark stared at his, equally stunned. The man they'd humiliated was offering partnership. Quick to judge based on clothes, real measure isn't clothes or cars, Harold continued, his voice strong, kind. It's how you use power. I choose to use it to give chances. Then, something remarkable. A young employee, Emily, quiet, often overlooked, stepped forward, tears welling. Mr. Thompson, she began, voice shaking. I'm one of those overlooked people, never had a chance, judged by appearance, inexperience. Today, someone cares. Harold walked to Emily, hand on her shoulder, eyes understanding. Emily, you're why I'm here. Never let anyone define your worth. Grow, prove you're extraordinary. The showroom, once echoing with mockery, was now reverent silence. Not just management change, but a shift in perspective, life-altering. Harold Thompson had transformed more than a dealership. He'd changed lives, offering a chance to rewrite their stories, shed prejudice, embrace respect and dignity. After signing, announcing the new direction, Harold knew one more lesson was needed, beyond words, beyond gestures. Something concrete, unforgettable. A slight smile, a nod to Doyle. Doyle understood, approached the employees, handing each a sealed envelope. Curiosity, tension, filled the air. Envelopes contained something life-changing, Harold announced, voice calm, mysterious. Open only after I leave. Reflect on today. With that enigmatic statement, Harold turned, walked towards the exit. Employees stood frozen, envelopes trembling in their hands. Murmurs, speculation rippled through the room. Robert and Mark exchanged nervous glances. As soon as Harold was gone, the dam broke. Envelopes ripped open. Inside, checks, substantial amounts. But it was the handwritten note that hit them hardest. This check is a new beginning. Use it for a dream you never dared chase. Remember, appearances deceive. Everyone deserves a second chance. Tears welled up. Harold's generosity, his intention, floored them. Not just changing the dealership, but offering them a chance to change their own lives, chase dreams, break free from prejudice. Robert, reading the note, felt a lump in his throat. Missed opportunities, fear, superficial judgments. Now, a chance to be different, start fresh, do something meaningful. Mark looked at the check like a ticket to another world. His own business, a long-held dream, suddenly possible. The cynicism, the arrogance, melted away, revealing a man he barely knew. As employees absorbed the shock, Harold, outside Manhattan Motors, looked at the city skyline, a sense of serenity washing over him. Seeds of change planted, not just in the dealership, but in the lives within. And that, he knew, was the truest reward. Then, Harold turned back towards the dealership, a final quiet determination in his eyes. He wasn't quite finished. He wanted to leave them with one last powerful image, a living embodiment of the lesson they'd learned. He signaled to Doyle, and Doyle nodded, understanding. A moment later, the doors of Manhattan Motors opened again, and a man walked in. He was dressed simply, work boots scuffed, hands calloused, but there was a quiet dignity in his bearing. The employees, still reeling from the checks and the notes, watched in confusion. Brad and Mark exchanged puzzled looks. Who was this? Another test? Everyone, Harold announced, his voice resonating through the showroom. I want you to meet Samuel. He gestured to the man who had just entered. Samuel is a longtime friend, a man who has faced hardship, worked tirelessly. He's a construction worker, dedicated to his family. Today, he's here to show you that appearances truly can be deceiving. Samuel, visibly humble, stepped forward, a set of keys in his hand. He held them up, a shy smile on his face. Harold continued, his voice filled with pride. These keys, employees, these are the keys to Samuel's home, a home he just paid off after years of sacrifice, years of hard work. And not only that, Harold paused for dramatic effect. He's also saved enough to finally buy the car of his dreams. A collective gasp swept through the showroom. The revelation landed like a thunderclap. Robert's face flushed crimson, shame washing over him as the full weight of his earlier actions crashed down. Mark stared at the floor, remorse etched on his features. Harold turned to the employees, his gaze sweeping across their faces. Samuel is exactly the kind of person you would have dismissed, the kind you would have ignored, treated with indifference had he walked in here alone this morning. Silence descended, heavy and thick with realization. The employees were stunned, confronted with the living embodiment of their prejudice. The lesson was no longer theoretical, it was standing right in front of them. Harold continued, his voice softening slightly. Samuel, please, choose your car. And this time, he directed his gaze at the employees. I want everyone here to do what they should have done from the beginning. Treat him with the respect, the attention, the genuine courtesy he deserves. Without hesitation, the employees surged forward, a complete transformation in their demeanor. They were attentive, eager to help, genuinely interested in Samuel's needs and desires. They understood now. Samuel, despite his simple clothes, his calloused hands, was a man of immense worth, a man deserving of every ounce of respect. As Samuel began to look at the cars, a young salesman named Tom, usually quiet and overlooked, found his voice. He stepped forward, his voice trembling slightly but filled with sincerity. Mr. Thompson, he began, I've always believed that people's value isn't in what they wear or own, but I never felt I could say it here. Thank you for showing us. Harold smiled warmly at Tom, a surge of satisfaction filling him. Tom, he said, your attitude, that's the future of Manhattan Motors. People like you who see beyond the surface are the key to making this place more than just a showroom. Never lose that. Never lose your humanity. Tom beamed, a shy but genuine smile spreading across his face. Samuel, after careful consideration, made his choice. A sleek, silver model he'd only dreamed of owning. This time, the employees didn't just celebrate a sale. They celebrated Samuel, his hard work, his dreams. They made him feel, truly feel, like the most important customer in the world. Harold turned to the entire team, his voice resonating with finality and profound meaning. Remember this, everyone. Every person who walks through these doors deserves respect. You never know their story, the battles they fought, the dreams they carry. And that, he emphasized, his eyes locking with theirs, that is what truly makes us rich. The ability to see the value in every human being beyond appearances. A wave of applause erupted in the showroom, spontaneous and heartfelt. But it wasn't just applause for a car sale or even for Harold Thompson. It was applause for a new beginning, for a new era of respect, empathy, and genuine human connection that had been born within the walls of Manhattan Motors. Harold Thompson had done more than just buy a dealership. He had ignited a transformation, a profound and lasting shift in perspective in the hearts and minds of everyone present. And as he watched them, he knew his mission, for now, was complete.